of you. I saw some questions in the chat. Maybe I'll start from the same features between Prosvita and Scandinavian Bildung. Of course, I must say when I deeply study history and the main districts of Prosvita. At the same time, I a little read the book in Ukrainian translation, Bildung, by Lena Rachel Anderson, and I was really surprised which common features I found because I must say that this process was in chronological simultaneously. Besides this, if I said that many Ukrainians accept experience from Scandinavian countries, besides this, the main conception of education deals with the problem permanent, comprehensive development of child, and I must focus that this education deals with to develop child out the school, a permanent development out the school. And I had question about
also about how can the Bildung movement help with restoring and building?
No, I said that Prosvita successfully exists during 60 years, but after fact when banned activity Prosvita by Russian regime, Prosvita stopped its activities. If I'm sure if Prosvita wasn't banned by this occupied regime, Ukrainian had more chance to colleague, help me please, how to say укріпити.
Я можу допомогти вам, пані Алло, так. To strengthen.
Reinforce, strengthen.
Reinforce, strengthen.
Більше укріпити, стабілізувати свою незалежність.
To strengthen the independence without.
І зараз мали би інакшу ситуацію.
And then we would have had a different situation right now.
Because Prosvita was really the global social, political, national, educational phenomenon in Ukraine, which can covered all sphere of Ukrainian life.
I might have missed it, but you are building the school to stay, or is it only for during the wartime? You have created a beautiful formula where the school is really at the heart of rebuilding community. Is this beneficial also for communities that are not at war to integrate more all types of education for both children and adults? Create an education hub. So please, Irena, Kateryna, Katya.
The main aim of our school is really to be a place and as well as a community place for those who had to leave their home because of different reasons. So, of course, it may not be just war. We also have many people coming from Belarus. We have Kurdish people. We have our re-emigration issues with Lithuanians who left country and now they wish to come back, and they also need to be integrated. So at this moment we really focus mostly on children and families who had to leave their countries, but I hope the knowledge and the case can be shared for everyone. Of course, time will show. If anyone is interested, we are open.
Yeah, I would continue that and saying that unfortunately, it doesn't seem that life will be smoother in the nearest years. And we have a lot of challenges, not just from a military perspective, but also climate change perspective. And most probably there will be a lot of waves of migration. And we have to be ready for that. And we have to develop an infrastructure on how to integrate new members of society, would it be temporarily or permanently. And the Scandinavian system, and in particular for Bildung schools, they were the premises for this infrastructure. And it's also one of the reasons why, for me, at least that's the way I interpret it, but I believe there are studies on it, why it was more successful, the whole migration policies and integration of refugees coming from Syria and Africa in Scandinavia than, for example, in Germany and other countries. So I believe that the new formats of education are very needed, and we are now just experimenting with it. Somehow, you know, when it's peacetime, you get stuck with the things that work. You get stuck with the curriculums. You want people to, you want children to keep up to certain standards that the government sets for them. And then in the situation like now, when you basically build something from scratch, there is a chance for creativity, as I mentioned, and doing something, thinking totally out of the box. So that's what is happening here in Gravitas. We're experimenting, and we have a justification for it. we had a good reason to be as open-minded as possible, and maybe this could be scaled, or we could share these experiences with other communities in the future. We would love to.
I would really love to visit your schools once everything is a bit more quiet and see for myself.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, Lithuania is, you can go to Lithuania, that shouldn't be a problem.
No.
No,
So there is a question for Alla here. What are the obstacles to the speedy revival of this organization? Are there already more specific developments in this direction that correspond to more modern educational trends?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, I done my.
It is Olia who's asking the question.
Okay, I said that that Prosvita revived its activities in 1980 in Ukraine. When Ukraine gained your independence, but now many of Prosvita's former functions now performed by state institutions. It is important another that Prosvita managed to become an important center of our existence, national existence, existence of Ukraine, which in this period, active activity Prosvita hadn't own state and was devoted between two empire. Besides this, Prosvita showed what is a powerful resource has Ukrainians, how they can organize in a structure, in a community, and how can how can develop economical, political, national and cultural life without any support from above. Thank you.
We have a similar question from Paul Karpovich, who asks, is it possible to restore this movement if we can bring this war to an end? And then we have Mihail saying, we are doing this now, Paul. And I think that kind of deserves a little bit more explanation, because there are a lot of people here who do not necessarily know what's going on right now. Do we have Mihail or Elena?
This movement
Yeah, we are here. We are here. Maybe Mihail could describe, because we're just about to launch.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much, colleague, for describing your interesting experience. But you know, we understand a collective opinion of Ukrainian Bildung network group. We think that the Bildung is extremely important in Ukraine if understood as a practice of adult education. Because, you know, we are making all possible for our children right now, except for changing the system of the education. And what Irena told, that this interesting initiative is illegal in a sense that it's informal. So the adult education should not be formal. It's not about any kind of funny papers to be placed on the wall. And we have an extremely difficult task of making responsibility a popular word in a country still filled with the paternalistically tuned people behaved in this old for our country tradition. This notion could explain what should be done and what is doing right now in Ukraine. So Prosvita as a tradition, in its historical form, could not be simply declared, you know. It is not the number of so-called people's houses. It's interesting form. You can find a dozen of it in the western part of Ukraine, in every particular village, but they are empty or closed. So that's the houses where Prosvita lived. So we have to involve in something of value the adults, and that's why we are placing a main emphasis right now on the forms existed before in Ukraine, before Soviet times. I mean, all these study circles or learning circles and so on, where adult people are starting to talk openly to each other and gaining the knowledge, the experience of better life, more organized, more able for joint action together, to make the life for children better, not to wait when our children will make our life better. So that's why it is not, unfortunately, the task of taking Swedish or Danish experience and implementing it without changing any details. It's not, this doesn't work. It's a cultural thing, and it has to be implemented, accepted by people as a value. So we are making right now preparatory steps to ignite the process, which will not, in our hopes, depend on us further. It has to be a chain reaction of enthusiasm and which have to be supported with an experience and information how it works everywhere where it works. It's working not only in Nordic countries, it is working in Poland, for example, very much. We have a set of so-called people's universities there, totally informal. So we have to do this, and I mean, the large number of people who are already interested in this experience and action to create something inexistent before, and not managed by the state, which is extremely important.
Yeah, it's important that Irena highlights that the school is not illegal. It's not informal. It has legal status. The children will also get accredited by the Ukrainian system of education. We've signed the necessary contracts with the memorandums, basically, with the Ukrainian schools. We have the Ukrainian teachers who will be teaching in Ukrainian according to the curriculum, with certain changes, of course, and based on the European practices, like best pedagogical practices. But Irena, over to you, please.
So and Lithuanian curriculum as well, simultaneously, they will have both. So it just at the beginning was illegal, but when listening to you, Mikhail, what we also recognize that it's really hard to attract adults to learn. So what is, even if they are around school, so what was this Tula project is extremely successful because it's not about educating. It's not about being uneducated or the sense that someone wants to educate you. It's about really exchanging, sharing different cultures, finding links between different identities, exploring its, and this is something when you can share, you feel rich. And what goes on about this informal education, it may turn also into formal activities, but how to create this sense of willingness to grow together, to explore something new. And this happens, what I see, of course, not in all the group, but this change, this shift showed that we are very limited. We don't know how to cope with the situation. We are very new in the situation. Parents are new in the situation. Teachers, adults, Lithuanians are new in this situation. Others are new. So this creates questions, and questions leads us towards inquiry around. So this is a great time really to get together and to explore questions first, and then to exchange. So I see this as the most beautiful time for us really to grow up, because we don't know how to cope. Nobody knows. This I see, because we really learn, Katya. Yes, we have so many activities around where people learn and they want to learn.
Thank you, Kateryna, Irena, and Alla, and especially Irena, for clarifying not only the format, but the goal and the major commitment that all of you are doing there. And I believe all of us here today are supporting you also. So more than bureaucracy and formats, we are talking of meaningful hope and finding strategies together. Some final words for this session, such a touching session and learning session for all of us.
Can I say something? Hello
Please.
To everyone. My name is Olga Kotowska. I am Deputy Director of the Department of Education of Lviv Oblast in Ukraine. So thank you for the discussion. But in some way, it's also very important for when the children are outside Ukraine. studying in schools, also to make the possibilities for them to have connections with our country. So the idea of Prosvita was to build this islands of Ukrainian identity, of education, libraries, and communication, when we Ukrainians do not have our independent state in our own land. Now it is very important to make small lands, small islands of Ukrainian identity in other countries. So it's very important to make such like Prosvita centers in countries where, for example, children can go to Sunday schools or other things. So in some way that could influence the connection between Ukrainians, because it's very important to support them in this time. So these are things which I am thinking about listening to the presentation of Alla, of Irena. So maybe it is also the idea for next steps for us to do.
Yeah, if I may. I'd like to shortly respond to Ola, and thank you very much for emphasizing the importance of the non-formal, both formal and non-formal education. And this is something we're now speaking about with colleagues and friends from who were temporarily displaced to other countries. Like we are in connection with France, for example, both Paris and south of France. It's very interesting how bottom up the Ukrainian women of different professions who found themselves in totally new circumstances and in need to integrate and build their life, at least for a while, but for sure from scratch, how they cooperate now in order to implement cultural projects, and they get together and create schools for children, and they create festivals, and they do a lot of art therapy, even without the necessary number of psychologists, but they still manage to co-create together. So now we are speaking with France, Poland, Japan, and Czech Republic to make a first event in the series of events to speak about how women, Ukrainian women, after 24th of February, bottom up, got together and started to create cultural initiatives in the countries where they were displaced and what they have done so far. And I invite you to this meeting. It will happen on the 12th of November. Please get in touch with us, whoever is interested, and we'll send you an invitation so that you will get to know this cultural, kulturno-prosvitnitsky hub, cultural hubs of Ukrainian women around the world. Thank you.
It's very important things to do, because we were thinking about Sunday schools near the churches, Ukrainian churches, to make connections, to feel not alone, because it's also an important thing to make these connections outside Ukraine for Ukrainians to be together, to stay with this pain, and to have the people who are the most closer, who knows this pain. So it is also very important to make this network, this islands of Ukrainian identity near the schools, maybe where there are Ukrainians, maybe near the churches. So we also have such institute of cultural connections here in Lviv Polytechnic, who make this map of Ukrainian centers outside Ukraine. So we just have the possibility to make this network to work together.
Thank you. And Alia is asking, is there a map with these hubs so that this information can be distributed among those interests? It seems so.
Yes, there is this map. I can send it a little bit later. We prepare an electronic map for this.
Oh, perfect. I'm very curious. Please send it to me as well. Let's make sure that we connect.
And dear Olia, it was very, very important what you said. And I just remember when Lithuania got independent, Lithuanian diaspora abroad, it was very networked from different countries. They they brought the main inflow of competences, of finances, of everything to rebuild country. So I think this networking between these hubs may create in the future this strong diaspora that may help to restore country in more faster and resourceful way. So I think this is very, very important what you mentioned.